Hey guys, this is Bob with Thrive Wellness. Our wellness presentation topic for the day is the human microbiome, why gut health matters. So this will be either the third or fourth wellness presentation I'm posting to the portal for the CIEC Wellness at Work 2.0 program. So I hope you guys enjoy. So the microbiome is really a fascinating topic, and it amazes me how all these tiny microbes that live within us can have such a major impact on our health. And it's really an emerging science too. It seems like regularly there's new information that comes out about the microbiome and how it impacts our health. So a few things we will definitely discuss today. What exactly is the microbiome? What habits contribute to dysbiosis, as we'll learn later, is kind of an issue or a dysfunctional microbiome. What conditions are associated with poor gut health? We'll find there are many. And importantly, kind of transitioning to how do we support beneficial flora or a healthy microbiome in the body. And then we'll look at some tips to get started on a healthy gut. So the microbiome is basically the sum of all the genetic material of all the microbes, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses that live on and inside the human body. The largest numbers of these microbes are found within the small and large intestines. So much of this discussion today is going to touch on the ways that the microbiome and all these microbes impact our health, how they influence our health, and exactly what they do for the body. So a few microbiome facts for you. So there are over 100 trillion microbes living in and on the human body. This is fascinating to me. The number of microbiotic cells actually outnumber human cells by as much as 1.3 to 1. So a true statement would be that we are actually more microbe than we are human being, as it would turn out by that stat. The microbiome is thought to weigh as much as 5 pounds when you add up all the microbia within the body and on the body, as much as 5 pounds. There are as many as 10,000 unique microbial species. We'll get into this as well. Not all of these are beneficial, as it would turn out also. The microbiome was not widely recognized to exist until really the late 1990s. It had been studied as early as, I believe, the 60s and 70s, but general scientific consensus really came about in the 1990s regarding the microbiome, exactly what it was, and an emerging understanding of what the microbiome actually does for us. The emerging science of the microbiome. So we owe much of our knowledge about the microbiome to something called the Human Microbiome Project, which was launched by the National Institute of Health in 2007 and was completed in 2016. So leading up to this project launch, scientific understanding was growing to the point that it was recognized that, hey, we really need to study this and give it due diligence, as it really appears to have such a massive impact on human health and chronic disease prevention, as well as disease states in conditions where dysbiosis or poor gut health really takes hold. A few goals of the Human Microbiome Project, first being the need to identify and really characterize which microbes were actually living on the surface of our skin and within our bodies, and really determine the impacts on health and disease states that the human microbiome has. Much of the research and understanding we now have is owed to the Human Microbiome Project. And I can't understate it enough. The microbiome has such a massive impact on our health and interacts with so many different systems within our body that the human microbiome is now actually being considered a new organ system. Think about that. Pretty cool. The symbiotic nature of the human microbiome. So it's now understood that the microbiome evolved with humans over the course of thousands and thousands of years. So the microbia evolved to find shelter, nourishment within our bodies, and in turn, in true fashion with a symbiotic relationship, humans learn to utilize and benefit from some of the microbiotic byproducts, really, of their existence. And also a certain biochemical communication really developed between the host and these flora living within us. So the presentation that we're doing here today is a basic overview of the microbiome. I'm actually going to do a part 2 as well, focusing more on the gut-brain relationship and kind of that gut-brain access and the bigger part of that biochemical communication. There's so much information to dive into within the microbiome. It's necessary really to break this up, and truthfully, you could spend hours diagnosing and discussing the microbiome. But we'll start here with a general overview, and then part 2, again, will be more focusing on the communication that takes place between the human microbiome and the rest of the organ systems. So where does and how does the microbiome originate within us? When it comes to the seeding of the human microbiome, we're really a product of our early development, a product of our environment. The thought process is that the first point of contact would be through the placenta for a developing fetus. So that would be the first point of contact in acquiring some of these microbes. Certainly through the birthing process, babies born vaginally will collect quite a bit of their microbiome initially anyway through this process. So babies born through cesarean section, their microbiome is going to look very different than a baby born vaginally. Very much in the same light is a baby that is breastfed versus a baby that is bottle fed or fed formula. A baby is going to pick up microbiome life through breast milk, as well as skin-on-skin contact with between the infant and mother. And really, again, we're a product of our environment, the things we're exposed to from a very, very young age through our adulthood is really going to determine the type of microbiome that we ultimately flourishes within us. So some of these things we certainly cannot control. Much of our conversation going forward is going to be more geared to what are the habits that influence and help nurture a healthy microbiome. So is all gut flora beneficial? The good bugs and the bad bugs. It's estimated there are more than 10,000 unique species of microbes that live within humans. So much of that flora that exists within the human body is helpful and is thought to be that beneficial flora. Some of the flora also just kind of exists within us and really pose no benefit or harm. So these are either transitioning through us or taking up residence for some amount of time, but are thought to be a transitional flora that really are indifferent. No harm, no benefit, but they're just kind of there. There are approximately 100 microbes that have been identified that are definitely harmful, and these are considered the opportunistic flora. So next we'll dive into the concept of dysbiosis. So dysbiosis is a condition in which there is an imbalance of or maladaptation with respect to the internal or external microbiome, resulting in greater numbers of opportunistic or harmful flora over the beneficial flora. So again, there's many lifestyle factors that do play into these types of conditions, and as we'll discuss in a moment, dysbiosis is in turn linked to so many different chronic diseases and disorders that can arise. Dysbiosis and intestinal pH. So it's now understood that beneficial flora tend to thrive in a more acidic environment, and in turn, opportunistic flora or the harmful flora prefer a more neutral or alkaline environment. So this is one major differentiation because it has huge bearing on our understanding as well as the impact that the internal environment has on the health of the microbiome. And our health habits themselves play a major role in supporting that internal environment that's preferred by the beneficial flora. So a lot of the decisions that we make day in and day out, what we put on our plate, how much we move our body, how we manage stress, what medications we're taking, a lot of things like that impact this internal environment. So before we get into the benefits of the microbiome and what it actually does for us, what are some signs that you may actually have dysbiosis? Frequent courses of antibiotics or other medications in your life, frequent gas and bloating, other digestive issues like diarrhea, constipation, brain fog, which the scientific community is now kind of recognizing as kind of a lack of the ability to concentrate and focus. If you have painful joints, depression and anxiety, immune-related conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, numerous allergies, skin-related conditions like eczema and psoriasis, or if you have any current chronic disease diagnoses, these can all be signs that dysbiosis is kind of a related underlying condition that might exist. So that brings us to the end of part one of our discussion on the microbiome. So in part two, we'll dive into what are some of the functions that are carried out by the microbiome in the body. What are some other related conditions, as well as what are all the lifestyle factors that do play into the relative health of the microbiome.